Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the latest Manchester United news and transfer news, and we're going to get straight into it. David Brooks of Bournemouth has been put forward as a serious option for Manchester United this transfer window, potentially coming in with Jadon Sancho or even potentially being a Jadon Sancho alternative. But the reality is it has caused quite a lot of debate. I mean, I was just literally reading a tweet there from somebody saying you can't moan about squad depth and then moan when we're going to bring a player in from Bournemouth who's happy to sit on the bench. And I think this is a mentality that I personally totally disagree with. It's the same sort of, if you clapped the Ighalo deal, then by all means clap the David Brooks deal. But for me, this is not. I mean, I like Ighalo, but let's be honest. Applauding that deal allows the United board to think, oh, hold on, look at Ighalo. They liked that. That was popular. Let's do something else similar that's a total risk and not going to close the gap on the teams ahead of us. So basically, I saw this last night. I'll quote the source on it because, look, it made my ears prick a little bit. Manchester United's interest in David Brooks is rather more serious than widely assumed. Sport witnesses have been informed, and there could even be developments relatively quickly. Now, David Brooks is 23 years of age. He got one goal this season, but he only played 9 games because he was out for most of the season with an ankle injury. Red alert straight away there. No one's talking about the fact that he was out for a season with an ankle injury. Oh, well, it'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. Let's buy a player that's had a big injury early on in their career because it's fine. That's worked out well before, hasn't it, with Delo and Eric Bailly? But no, let's crack ahead again with another Brexit FC signing, probably recommended by an ex-player, instead of looking in Europe. I mean, look, we will pay more for David Brooks than City paid for Torres from Valencia. And yet again, it's just evidence of this ineptitude when it comes to looking outside of Britain and scouting in Europe for players that will be better than David Brooks and cheaper than David Brooks. But no, let's get the camaraderie of the British boys. Well, the only thing I'm surprised about this 2 weeks with the United lads is they're not all off on holiday to Benidorm with the Union Jack flag, putting it on the bloody towel beds, because What is this? What is this absolute obsession with British players for Manchester United? It's odd. This worked probably 20 years ago when the Premier League wasn't even as cosmopolitan as it is now. Europe's not another... It is another country in Europe, but you know what I mean? Football is so diverse, and it's not about board. Football doesn't have borders anymore. This whole British thing, it's just odd. You don't need to do it. But back to David Brooks. I don't like this transfer. Some people do like it. They're like, Mark, you can't moan about it. Listen up. We need a squad players. Ollie can't go for the bench. He's got to go with David Brooks. It gives us some quality on the bench. Also, a player that's played for Bournemouth that no other top 6 club wants is going to improve us to make us close the gap on Liverpool and Man City. That is the mentality we need to look at. And look, what I must say is, I don't think Man United are in for David Brooks. Can I just say that? So all this discussion we're having, I don't think we're in for him. I genuinely don't think we're in for Brooks. I don't think we're in for Brooks. I don't think we were in for... I think it's very similar to the story about Kingsley Coman 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'll guarantee you we've scouted Brooks, and that's enough for a story to be written that United are interested. I don't think we're in for him. I think it would be stupidity on another level to be in for a player like that. But what I have said and what I would say is, if this was the alternative to Jadon Sancho, and there is a big Jadon Sancho update from Romano, and there is a big update on Gabriel we'll talk about in a minute, but if United seriously thought David Brooks over Jadon Sancho is a good way to go, they're not that stupid. They can't be that stupid. And ultimately, what I say about this is, why are some United fans going, oh, he'd be a good squad player, he's better than Pereira, he's better than Lingard, he's better than Mata? I mean, is that who we are now? We're replacing bench players who aren't good enough. Everybody knows. The only club that should be out there buying bench players are Liverpool, because they've got a very good first team. But Manchester United's first team ain't good enough. If anybody thinks it's good enough, you've got the memory of a goldfish. We just got knocked out of a Europa League semi-final because 2 or 3 players ain't good enough at the highest level. So you want to buy squad players to allow those players that are not good enough to stay in the first team on easy street. What United need to do to close... What are we trying to do at Manchester United? We're trying to win the Premier League. We're trying to get competitive in the Champions League. Now, for me, I like opinion, but for me, if you want to win a Premier League title and United are nowhere near that at the moment, you don't buy bench players. You buy first team players because your first team isn't good enough. And what happens is you buy a first team quality player who forces a first team player to the bench and forces competition. You buy a bench player like David Brooks. Do you think Rashford or Greenwood or Martial are looking over their shoulder, or Bruno's looking over their shoulder and going, oh shit, they've bought David Brooks, I bet I'm in real trouble now? They're not. They're like, well, he can come on when I want to rest. You know, and that's not going to improve us. We need to buy players that are going to compete with the first team, because the first team ain't good enough. So this signing to me is all kinds of wrong. One, it's a bench player. Two, it's a player that no other top six club wants. Three, he's had a massive injury for a year, so that worries me as well. Four, he's going to be more expensive because he's got 2 years left on his contract. He's not free. People seem to think, oh, he's been relegated, you get him for free. Nathan Ake got relegated, they had to pay 40 million quid. Why would they give us David Brooks for anything less than 30? So he's not cheap. People are quoting 20 million. Where are you pulling 20 million out from when they've just let their centre-back go for 40 million and David Brooks has got 2 years left on his contract? So he's not going to be cheap either. And he's just a squad player. I don't know what... All right, you know, if you're better than Dan James, you're worth buying. I mean, come on. That is not good enough. But I don't think United are in for him anyway. So, you know, I'm just talking to those fans who are saying, oh, what a good signing he'll be. I think Brooks has potential, but definitely not for United. He would fit better at a mid-table team like Arsenal, and that would be a gradual step up, says Aaron Jones. Personally, I don't think David Brooks would be a good signing for Everton. I don't. And it's interesting that Everton aren't in for him. Mark, like you, I'm sick of this board taking love and enjoyment out of any transfer. So much joy this club gave in the past years, but now in the post-Fergie Gill era, they've slowly sucked it out. Really am sad, Mark. What should I do, says Ankit? Well, sit tight. It's a long transfer window, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be an enjoying one, does it? Welcome to Ashley Larkham, latest member of the United Stand Members Club. Appreciate that. And Man United must stop living in the past, class of 92, and start looking forward, says Geordie Joshua. Well, look, if you're joining a little bit late, we have got a Sancho update. We have got a Gabriel update. We will be talking a little bit about other transfer news as well. But the breaking news really late last night and into the morning is that Manchester United are seriously interested in David Brooks. Now, as I said, some people think, well, as long as it's him and Sancho, that's good enough. You know what? If it's the alternative to Sancho, get out. But even if we're getting Sancho and Brooks, get out. I don't think that is good enough for Man United. I don't. If we sign him, look, I didn't want Matic at the start. I didn't. And if you sign a player, it's very wrong to be from day one, I don't want you here. I'd have to back the player, of course. It's not the player's fault. But before the deal's been done, if the deal's been looked at, I'm totally against this. This is not. And also, look, can I be absolutely blunt here? Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is not Pep Guardiola, and he is not Jurgen Klopp, and he is not Diego Simeone, and he is not Zidane. He's not one of the world's best coaches. You give Jurgen Klopp David Brooks, I'd be like, it's a risk, but he knows what he's doing. You give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer David Brooks, and I'm like, so we've got a manager that we all like, but we accept is learning on the job. We saw on Sunday in the Europa League semi-final. Ole's not the finished article as manager. And I think many people need to understand this. Maybe he'll never be the finished article. Okay, I can accept that. I disagree, but there you go. But he's not the finished article. Definitely not. He made mistakes all through last season, and he made a mistake on Sunday. He kept Rashford and Williams on for half an hour too long. We probably would be in a final if he hadn't done that. So Ollie's still learning in the job. And you're going to give him a player like David Brooks, who is a player that clearly isn't good enough, that if he's going to be good enough, is going to need a massive amount of care and attention. You're going to give Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, a manager who's learning on the job, a player like that. The board need to realise, if you want Solskjaer to be successful, you need to be giving him the best players you can give him. Not players like David Brooks because he's British and he's been recommended by an ex-player. And, you know, well, that's it, isn't it? I mean, for what other reason why would you be looking at David Brooks? I mean, there's surely a right winger somewhere in Europe that's been relegated that's cheap. Why is it always Premier League players? People are Bournemouth, Norwich, they've had players relegated, let's get them for cheap. I'm sure there's teams in Spain that have been relegated, and Italy and Germany that have been relegated. Are their players not good enough? Because no, we've got to have a British passport. As silly as it sounds, I think Alaba could be decent, natural at left back, and centre back, says Stefan Shu. Well, Christian Falk, who's very close to Bayern Munich, said that's not true, so you may as well forget that. Very, very good about that. Brooks would probably go to Leicester. I think he's a lot better than you think, but it's all about opinion, says Robert McCormack. In relation to the player, he got 1 goal from 9 games this season, but last season he played 30 games. He got 7 goals and 5 assists, which is quite good. But what my point is, Robert, is I don't want David Brooks at United just like I don't want Josh King at United, because I don't think they're good enough. And I think you've got to be arrogant. I think if you're a United fan, and it's the same with you if you're a Liverpool fan, you've got to be a little bit arrogant. Why should you be forgiving? Why should you be all-encompassing? Why should you be empathetic? We're Manchester United. We shouldn't be the club. If you want to say, I don't think a Bournemouth player is good enough for United, I'm high-fiving you, because it's that arrogance that makes you better than everybody else. I've got nothing against David Brooks, but I just don't think he's good enough for Manchester United. And also, the big thing for me, it's got a capital R. It's a risk. Why are we taking risks? We've got money. The only money this club wants to save is to put into dividends and shareholders. We've got the money. Don't pretend that we haven't got the money. Look, COVID-19 is now being used as an excuse. What was the excuse last year when the net spend was 60 million? What was the excuse the year before when it was 60 million? We don't like spending money. Don't allow COVID-19 to be the reason that United don't want to spend money. They don't like spending money. They don't. 60 million last year, 60 million the year before, net spend. We've got way more than that. Everton, Villa, Fulham have outspended us over the last 2 summers. We don't like spending money. It's nothing to do with COVID-19. So don't ever fall into the trap. Wow, David Brooks, good value for money when we haven't got a lot. We have got money. We don't want to bloody spend it. So why these signings are just not giving the manager what he wants. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants Jadon Sancho. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer will want Jack Grealish. We shouldn't be going for David Brooks because he's cheap. Ollie, we found this player. No. Dan Pigeon, latest member of the United Stand Members Club, and Ian Beaster, hello and welcome to the Members Club. Thanks for joining. Everything is free on the United Stand YouTube channel. We don't do Patreon or anything like that, so thanks for supporting the channel. Aston Villa also not top 6, says Sheikh. Look, that is probably idiot of the week comment. So now you're telling us that Jack Grealish, David Brooks is as good as Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish single-handedly kept Villa up. David Brooks had an injury all season. I mean, look, that to me is a big thing as well. I've said this about Liverpool's recruitment enough. They scout their players before they buy him ridiculously. They wanted Nabil Fekir and they didn't buy him because of a knee injury that he'd recovered from that they thought was a procedure that was a bit risky and could come back to bite them in a couple of years. He's moved on to Spain. He's not had a big injury. They could have got Fekir, but they didn't take the risk. Risk is the key. Liverpool recruit correctly. United, if they did buy David Brooks, they're buying a player that's missed nearly a year with an ankle injury. I mean, is that a good idea? He's a risk as a player, and then there's an element of risk about his injury record. It's a stupid signing. It's not a good signing. And actually, people are trying to talk this up because we need squad players, and he's cheap because he's been relegated. Bollocks, bollocks, bollocks. It's a load of crap. It's absolutely stupid to be looking at players just because they're relegated and cheap. It's what Man United should not be doing. It's what Southampton should do. You're falling into the trap of, we ain't got a lot of money, so we should look at relegated clubs. We shouldn't. We should be looking at the best. We're trying to be the best. If you don't want to be the best, go and buy players like that. Get Josh King as well. If you want to be the best, if you want Manchester United to be where they should be, we need to be closing the gap on Liverpool and Man City. Last time I checked, the gap to Liverpool was 30-something points. You ain't doing that with David Brooks. You're not even going to do it with Jadon Sancho, but you'll be moving in the right direction, which is what we need to do. We've got to start buying quality players. And this squad, buying a squad player, I've never heard such nonsense in my life. Buying players to sit on your bench. What a negative, slow, unadventurous approach to have. We're going to buy players that are better than Lingard and Pereira. How about buying players that are better than Lindelof, Brandon Williams, Scott McTominay, Marcus Rashford, Matic, all good players, but buy players better than them. How much better? Here's an example for you. If United had money, what would you rather do? If I had money, right, and I'm the Glazers, right, you knock on my door and you say, I need a better bench, Glazer. And I go, fine, there's 100 million quid, go and get 3 players for the bench. Thanks, boss, high five. But wait a minute, I don't want to give you that. How's about I give you 400 million and you go and buy 4 first team players? Well, I want to improve my bench. But wait a minute. If I give you £100 million and you buy 3 players for 30 million and they go on the bench and they're better than Lingard and Pereira, you've got a better bench. But if I give you 300 million and you buy 3 players, one's better than Matic, one's better than Rashford, one's better than Lindelof, suddenly Lindelof, Rashford and Matic are on your bench. Your bench is way stronger already and you've got 3 first-teamers. There you go. There's the lesson. That's how you improve. You buy players for your first team and the players in your first team that can't play anymore go to your bench and your bench is stronger than buying squad players. Bada bing, bada boom. It's very interesting. Instead of going for Brooks, use Chong more often, says Subra. Well, Chong's on loan now, so that's not going to happen. Even Real Sociedad are hijacking deals. We can't even get anything done. Surely they're good players in RB and Leon we should be looking into, says Nidin. Yeah. Well, Ayor's going to go to Man City, isn't he? From Leon. Again, another player that we should have been looking at. Hate to use Liverpool as an example, Mark, but when their midfield and defence were bad, they still went out and got Saha first, says Di Bernard. Hi Mark, regarding money, I'm 100% sure Woodward will first sell players, then only they will sell buy players, says Ansherman. Official Napa is latest member of the United Stand Members Club. I'm not sure why Grealish is being spoken of as bad because of where Villa finished. Look at where Tevez did for West Ham single-handedly, and we signed him, says William Redpath. Yes, I've said this before. Just because you're relegated doesn't mean you're not good enough. Roy Keane got relegated with Forest. We bought him. We paid a British transfer record because it was very clear he was one of the best players in the league. It's very clear that Jack Grealish is one of the better players in the league. I think we can move on from that. Anyway, look, this David Brooks deal, I really hope it doesn't happen. I think it's a nonsense signing on so many different levels. But look, I've said my bit. You can have your bit. It's all about opinion. There you go. Smash a like on the video. Let's talk about the Jadon Sancho update. So, Fabrizio Romano was doing a few tweets last night. He got the normal questions around Jadon Sancho. Basically what he said is the price for Sancho is still 120 million euros, and if that's not paid, a deal won't happen. He also added in that they want 120 million pounds, not 80 plus 20 plus 20 in 4 or 5 years. This sent a lot of people into meltdown. They're like, oh, I thought we could do a structured deal. Mark. Clearly we can't. The deal's over. We won't pay 120 million. Well, you're right. I don't think Manchester United will pay 120 million euros outright. But I don't. I think the clue is in the wording of what Fabrizio said. Christian Falk mentioned 2 weeks ago the structure of the deal being 80-20-20. Now, what's the difference between Christian Falk saying 80-20-20 and Fabrizio Romano saying last night that Dortmund won't accept 80-20-20? Well, it's in the wording. What Fabrizio Romano said last night is it's 120 million euro and Dortmund won't accept 80-20-20 over 4 or 5 years. Well, it's something really easy for me here. 80-20-20 over 4 or 5 years is not 80-20-20 over 2 years for a start. Plus 80-20-20 when the 2020 is add-ons is not the same as 80-20-20 in instalments. Now people are going to get lost with 80-20-20 here, but what Romano said was Dortmund won't accept 80-20-20 over 4 or 5 years. My understanding and what Christian Falk was saying and what a lot of people have been saying is Dortmund will take 80-20-20 over the next 2 years in instalments so that it's guaranteed they get 80-20-20. Now what Romano is saying, I think, is 80-20-20 over 4 or 5 years and that 2020 could be in add-ons. So United won't pay 120 million euro up front, I don't think. And I don't think Dortmund want 120 million euro up front. I think they want 120 million euro over the next couple of years, which is reasonable, and it's what United should do, and I believe that is what will happen. However, can I just say, as I'm 90% sure we will sign Sancho, and I'm still not going to move away from that, nothing is set in stone. 2 weeks ago, this deal maybe could have been done over 2 years. What if Dortmund have said, up yours, you're a bunch of prats, you pay us 120 million euro or you get nothing? They might have changed. The deal might have been there to be done 2 weeks ago over 2 years, and Dortmund might be saying, you are an absolute bunch of prats, forget about it, 120 million euro or nothing. And that could have happened. I don't think that has happened. I still think Dortmund would like the money, and at the end of the day, if you're getting 120 million euro now or you're getting it in 2 years' time, does it really matter? I don't think it will do, especially if the player wants to go. Ultimately, I think if United do the deal that is structured for 120 million euros over 2 years, Sancho will say he wants to leave and Dortmund will sell. And that's what will happen. If United are getting linked to David Brooks, no doubt United will get linked to Harry Wilson, says Joel Morris. I'm still convinced we'll sign Josh King at some point as well, if I'm absolutely honest. I'm confident that we'll get Sancho, says Giorgio. However, with this ownership, we never know. They could walk away and we end up with Fraser on a free. Yeah. I'm surprised we haven't been linked to Ryan Fraser, actually, because he is free. You're clutching at straws, Mark, says Alex K. I'm not clutching at straws. I've probably been the most consistent person about this for weeks. You lot are flip-flopping. Oh, is it happening? Is it not happening? Oh, it's not happening. Oh, it might happen. Oh, it is happening. Oh, it's not happening. Oh, it is. It is. It is. Oh, it's not. It's not. It's in. It's out. It's in. Oh, no, no. I've been very consistent. I've been confident all along, and I think it irritates some of you because you don't like it. You want to be, you're wrong. You're wrong because you're living in your own despair. I'm confident it's going to happen. You can't change my mind. You can't change my mind. You can't change my mind. I know what can change my mind, and look, if it's raining outside, I'm not going to walk out in my swimming trunks. I'm not that sort of person. If the deal's not going to happen, you'll get the video from me saying it's not going to happen. But at the moment, I've seen nothing to change my confidence around Jadon Sancho coming to Manchester United. Now, if you're not confident about that, that's fine. But telling me I'm clutching at straws or telling me you're wrong, well, I'm not wrong because I know what I know. And I believe what I believe. And I've done this for many years. And most of the time I've been right. So I'm very confident it's going to happen. Doesn't mean I won't be wrong. Look, doesn't mean I won't be wrong. But don't tell me I'm clutching at straws when I know what I know. I've been very confident about this. I've not been quietly confident. I've continued to put it out publicly that I'm confident. And I'm confident it will happen. And look, if it happens, it happens. Usual United transfer chaos, says Rudeberg. Well, I'm not gonna deny that. How are you feeling today, Mark? Hope things are feeling better for you. I actually do feel a bit better today, so thank you for asking that, James Gavin, who is also a member, which is nice, but not essential to ask that question as a member. Yeah, I feel better today, so that's good. Which reminds me, actually, I've dropped a link in the video description for our Twitch page. It's the United Stand FC Gaming Twitch page. We are playing. We've got a United Stand Pro Clubs team, if you weren't aware. So all 11 players are controlled by different people. I play up front with Archie. We've got Chaps and others playing. So every player in the FIFA team is controlled by a different person, right? 4:30 today, we're playing the Liverpool Pro Clubs team. They play as Liverpool in the VFL League. We're playing Man United in a week's time, but we're playing Liverpool today. So big rivalry at 4:30. We need your support. You know, we can't have crowds, obviously, because it's a game of FIFA, but we can have live comments, which is like a crowd. So make sure you give us a follow. I've dropped the link in the video description and join us at 4:30 on Twitch. It's United Stand against the Liverpool Pro Clubs team. They are firm favourites, but look, we can do it. We can do it. So I'm looking forward to that one. So give us a follow on Twitch there. Romano also tweeted about Gabriel last night and caused a little bit of frustration in the fan base. Which there is frustration at the moment, let's be honest. We spoke about this on last night's video. Check it out if you didn't see it. But in a nutshell, frustration. What are we doing? So Romano spoke about Gabriel and said basically at this point it's between Napoli and it's between Arsenal. They've had the talks with the club. Koulibaly looks like he could go to Man City. If Koulibaly goes to Man City, Gabriel will go to Napoli as his replacement. Now, Arsenal fans are getting a bit annoyed because they're like, well, why is he waiting? Surely he wants to come to Arsenal, which I actually would agree with. You know, I would have thought Arsenal's a better move than Napoli. I always get surprised when players choose Serie A over Premier League, but to be honest with you, there's a lot of players that do it. Anyway, Manchester United were mentioned by Romano, and he said United only started talks with the agent last week. They're not talking with the club. Which led to a lot of people saying typically United are late to the party again, to which Romano replied and went, well, they're not necessarily late to the party, they just haven't had official talks with the club. Maybe they want to, maybe they don't want to, maybe they will at some point. So, to be honest with you, I would side with the late to the party thing. You know, I feel that United obviously are interested in Gabriel, but they're focusing on the Sancho thing, so they're not doing anything on Gabriel, which has always been our problem, which is why we need a director of football, because we can't do more than one thing at once. You know, we can't. So, Gabriel, but then again, you know, maybe United are interested in Gabriel and they've been told, look, he's not going to come to you unless Napoli keep Koulibaly. So United might be like, well, we want players that want to come to the club. That's always been Ollie's line publicly, that he wants players that want to the club. So, you know, Arsenal fans are probably praying that Gabriel comes there because Napoli keep Koulibaly, and that's absolutely fine. I understand that. I think some United fans would agree with that. And I think when you're Arsenal, with all due respect, well done for winning the FA Cup, but you finished 8th. You've got a big gap to get into the top 4. Gabriel's going to improve you. You probably are sat there going like that. Please come to us if you don't go to Napoli. I think some United fans would do that. But I don't think that's the mentality that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has. I think if he wants Gabriel to want to come to United, and he probably would say, well, look, he will come to United if he doesn't go to Napoli. And Oli might be like, well, that's not the mentality I want. And let's not forget, Gabriel is Brazilian. And stereotypically, yes, but it is proven that a lot of Brazilian footballers have gone China, PSG, and other places to earn money. Because who can fault them? A lot of footballers are like that. And maybe Gabriel is being offered more money by Napoli. You don't know. But that might be why United haven't proceeded. I do understand the frustration, though. It's frustrating when we know we need a left-footed centre-back, and there is one there that we're clearly interested in, although we haven't pursued to official talks. And if we go into next season without one, and maybe Arsenal did get Gabriel, we'd be sat there going, well, we were interested in him, we didn't get him, we haven't delivered for Oli again. And I do think it's very interesting over the last few weeks that I do think, and I'm not sure what you think, for me, probably 2 months ago, I was on the channel saying we won't sign a centre-back. We're not going to sign a centre-back. We won't sign a centre-back. I'll be stunned. I probably said I'll eat my shoes if we sign a centre-back. Somebody can find the clip somewhere. But this is the whole thing. It's not being a hypocrite. It's not being a flip-flop. The reality is life moves on. 2 or 3 months ago, I didn't really think we needed a centre-back. Post-lockdown, I'm stunned at how bad our centre-backs are as a pairing. I'm stunned at how poorly they are organised, and I'm stunned at the amount of mistakes there's been from Harry Maguire. I think Harry Maguire needs to be the right-sided centre-back because he's right-footed, and I think we desperately need a left-footed left centre-back. And it's essential. It's why we're not in a... ultimately, I think Brandon Williams, if he didn't play and Luke Shaw played, we'd be in the final. But also, I think you've got to put a lot of blame on the centre-backs as well, because if they'd marked that cross, the winning goal, which they should have done, all right, Brandon Williams should stop the cross coming in, but Lindelof and Maguire should be dealing with that one player in the box. So, and also the first goal that comes in, Harry Maguire's all over the place. So, ultimately, a better centre-back probably would have put us in the Europa League final as well. So we desperately need a left-sided centre-back. There are other options out there. There's Benoit Badiashile at Monaco. There's Paul Torres at Villarreal. There's Tyrone Mings. He's got a British passport, but we do need one. Why is it acceptable for Chelsea and City to be able to sign players so much quicker than United, says Rory Engelbrecht? Well, the interesting thing with Chelsea as well, and Man City, is that they're buying players that, well, maybe not Man City as much, because I'm not convinced that Nathan Ake is going to be a good player for Man City. I think Ferran Torres is a good signing, and I think if they get Koulibaly, Ake will just become... probably won't even start for Man City, to be honest. But look at Chelsea. Chelsea and Man United have massive parallels. We've got inexperienced managers who've got in the Champions League, who are nurturing young players, who are trying to close the gap on Liverpool and Man City. Look at the quality of Chelsea's signings this summer. Timo Werner, one of the best up-and-coming strikers in Europe. Ziyech, we'd all have took Ziyech. Very, very good signing. Havertz, one of the best up-and-coming attacking midfielders in the game. Chilwell, well, look, I wouldn't take Chilwell, but he's considered to be one of the best left-backs in the league. Chelsea are going out, and are Chelsea going to Bournemouth and thinking, oh, Josh King, you'll be better than Werner. Oh, David Brooks, you're better than Ziyech. Oh, let's have the left back. I don't even know the name, from Bournemouth. Oh, Chelsea aren't doing that, and they're in exactly the same boat as us, and they're going out and buying quality players. Now, that's your biggest lesson there. That is your biggest lesson. Welcome to the club, Ruben Diaz, latest member of the United Stand Members Club. But there's your lesson right there. Chelsea's first team and our first team, there's not a lot of difference really. Chelsea's bench is probably better than ours. Is Frank Lampard buying players for his bench? I mean, this is the point. I can see people in the live comments, and I can see people on social media saying, there's nothing wrong with signing David Brooks. He's better than Dan James. He's better than Pereira, and he makes our bench better. And this is the mentality I'm trying to get across. Why do you want your bench to be better? You want your first team to be better. Our first team is 30-something points off Liverpool. Chelsea, where do they need to improve? Chelsea got a good team. They need a striker. They get Timo Werner. Abraham or Giroud goes to the bench. Whatever. Maybe Giroud leaves. Ziyech comes in. Well, yeah, Willian's left, but they've still got Pulisic and Odoi. So one of those goes to the bench. Havertz comes in. Well, Mason Mount's been a very good player for them this season. Off you go to the bench because Havertz is coming in. They're buying first team players that force forces current first team players onto their bench, which makes them a better rounded team. This is exactly what United need to do. This is why Jadon Sancho is such a good signing, and this is why it frustrates me when people say, well, if we buy Sancho, what happens to Greenwood or Rashford? They go to the bloody bench. That's what happens. You don't buy bench players. It's the most idiotic thing I've ever heard of. Let's buy bench quality players for Manchester United. Oh, there's a crap player from the lower Premier League with a British passport. Let's buy him. He's better than Pereira. No. Let's buy Jack Grealish. Because all right, he might not push a Bruno or a Rashford out the team yet, but what an option he is off the bench, and basically his first team quality. Let's buy Sancho. Because if you buy Sancho, Rashford or Greenwood has to go to the bench. Oh my God. Look at the quality of our bench at the moment now. We've got Grealish and Rashford on the bench. Go and buy a left-sided centre-back. Oh my God, you can't pick Harry Maguire and Lindelof. One of them's got to go to the bench. You've got 3 first-team quality bench players now, and that's why it's really, really important. Bayern is the perfect example for United, said Jamie says. David Brooks may be a good squad option, but look at the Bayern Munich squad. They've got Perisic, Sane, Coutinho, Gnabry, Koeman, and even Muller, and they can't fit them all into the team. Exactly. Well, look at PSG last night. Look, Verratti probably starts if he's fully fit. Paredes is fantastic. Herrera, Idrissa Gueye was on the bench. Draxler was on the bench. You know, PSG are a French club. All right, they've got a lot of money, but they're playing in the French league. It's not, you know, French league for me is not even in the top 5 leagues in the world, and yet their bench is probably better than any bench in the Premier League. Well, this is what, and it all comes down to money again. United. No, I've never heard anybody say this, and it's just clicked in my brain. Maybe United want to buy bench players who are on 30 to 40 to 50 grand a week, because if you've got bench players who, look, do United want Marcus Rashford on the bench? Probably not. He's a well-liked player, but he's also on 250k a week. Now, as fans, we want Rashford on the bench if he's not as good as Sancho or Greenwood. Ollie would put him on the bench because he'd be like, what an option he is off the bench. But do the ownership want Marcus Rashford on the bench when he's on 250k a week? That's a very interesting question. And it comes back again. Business or football club. Bayern Munich, they've got players on their bench on really good money, but they want to win. PSG, they want to win. Manchester United, are we actually going to buy bench players because we don't want expensive players on our bench because it keeps the wage bill down? Money, money, money. Why do we not go for Thiago if Bayern want 30 million, says Klon? I think Thiago would be a player that many of you would consider, but he clearly wants to go to Liverpool, so I don't think that would happen. Anyway, look, smash a like on the video. Please subscribe if you're new. We are so close to 800,000, so please subscribe if you're new and share the video. Make sure you click the link in the video description and give us a follow on Twitch. We're playing Liverpool's Pro Clubs team at 4:30. It'd be lovely to have a bit of support in the live comments for that. That's over on Twitch. I'll be back with you a little bit later. Obviously, anything breaks, we'll go live. Have a good day. I'll speak to you in a bit.